Arteta! What a strike! What a screamer! Zola! And a fantastic goal! Arsenal back in it! Here's Limpar, lines it up, finds the net. Arsenal in front.
And we are live. Welcome to the ArsenalVision pre-match live stream. My name is Elliot Smith, Blackman, Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Good vibes today, people. We are in the quarterfinals of the Europa League, which I want to be clear, vastly superior to being in any other segment of any other European tournament, no matter what you watched this week or no matter what you thought. We're going to have some fun today. We'll take your questions, which should be fun, hopefully. We will certainly do some analysis of the lineup when it comes out. Let me tell you what's ahead. Paul will be here. Scott will be here. Clive will be here. Jessica Black will be here. So first hour, we're going to have Paul and Scott on, and hopefully in no time whatsoever, they will be joining us. And then Clive and Jessica Black will be here as well. At that point, we'll have the lineup. We'll go over it. So a few things on tap. We're going to look at the league a little bit, because why not? We're going to preview this match. We're going to do some hot takes. We think, we believe, which should be fun, I hope. We are going to maybe address some Aubameyang stuff, talk a little bit about Arteta's comments, cover injuries. So there's a lot ahead. And here to join me, his name is Scott. You can find him on Twitter at @O_that_crab. Hello, Scott.
Woohoo, yeah.
Woohoo, yeehaw. You thought you were Paul.
Everything. Yeah.
You're not Paul.
Just something to him and say hi.
You're not Paul, just as a heads up.
Okay.
But you know who is Paul? Do you know who is Paul?
I would assume Paul.
That's right. You can find him on Twitter, Pause My Pants. Hello, Pause. Woohoo. Woohoo, indeed. We're going to have some fun today, guys. We're definitely...
Elliot.
What was that?
Get a grip, Elliot.
That didn't make the bingo card, but I assure you we will be covering the bingo card.
That's exactly what I'm at. I realize I've only got like 2 expressions on the bingo card. I think it's because I say too many clever things.
that may be it.
So I'm going to pick a couple and stick with them.
Well, so to be fair, if you haven't seen the bingo card, we will be putting the bingo card on the screen. One of the things we definitely want to do is take your questions today as well. So, one of the questions right off the bat, are Paz and Elliot going to argue again today? I don't know, Paz, what are you feeling? You feeling like arguing?
No, we're always very loose on this thing. You're in a good mood, plus you're only half listening to anything I say because you're reading the messages, so it all goes very smoothly.
Yeah.
To be fair, nothing bad's happened yet for Arsenal.
Today?
Yes.
Touche, my friend. All right, well, let's do a little prediction. Let's have a little bit of fun. And one of the first things we can do right off the bat is predict the lineup. So I'm going to give way to you, Scott. Why don't you first tell me what your lineup predictions are?
All right, I did this earlier today, so I'm going to make sure I keep the same thing. So let me pull it up here. So I do have Leno in goal. And then, the hardest part is trying to pick the fullbacks. But I did go with Bellerin and Cedric at fullback. I have Holding and Gabriel at center backs, Partey and Xhaka, and then I went Saka, Smith Rowe, Willian, and then Aubameyang up top. That was my prediction. I think we're kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit. Willian was a guy that was sent out to do the press conference. I think that's a pretty big signal that he's probably going to start here. The other thing I think that going into this is I think we probably want to look at, this is something that they press a lot. So this is going to be something similar to what we did against Leeds, where we were pretty successful going with our 3 kind of attacking midfielder kind of role, where we could really kind of control the game a little bit more, have a little bit more technical security. So that's why I think I went with that. I think Aubameyang has to start this game. This is why we spent all that money to keep him around. So that's kind of what I think about this.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, he did drag us through the Benfica tie. He put us in jeopardy of the Benfica tie, then dragged us through the Benfica tie. So you got to keep it level. Paz, I'll turn it over to you. What are you expecting today in terms of your lineup?
What's the news on Odegaard? He's got a bit of a niggle, but we think he plays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have any team news in terms of who's available or who's not available.
Right.
So
I got my lineup. So
okay, what do you got?
Leno in goal, as somebody said. Scott does look like Leno, so that's always a good sign. Holding and maybe Murray. Arteta's shown a tendency to drop Gabriel when he has a few foo bars. So maybe this will be, and Holding Marie played against City. and handling a pressing lineup in both cases. I'm going to go with Bellerin at right back, though I think it's about 50-50 versus Chambers. No, I'm going to go with Chambers at right back, Cedric at left back. I would have gone with Smith Rowe, but Scott makes a compelling case for Willian on the left, and he was very good against Olympiacos, especially in the first leg. So I'll go with Willian, Aubameyang, and Saka as the front line with Odegaard behind them. 50-50 on Willian versus Smith Rowe. I prefer Smith Rowe on the left is my point, really, because if we've lost Tierney bombing up and down the left, I think Smith Rowe can give us that thrust, that attacking, that crossing, and combine smart enough with Cedric. But that would be my preference. Smith Rowe, it's about 50-50 with William, though.
I'll give you my lineup in a second. Scott, let me just ask you this. Do you think there's any chance, I mean, we've discussed it a little bit on the podcast, and I know Clive has been sort of in favor of it. Do you think that there's any chance that he will switch to a back three without Tierney being available, given that there is no great Tierney replacement available in the squad? Even if you like Saka there, he's not Tierney.
I mean, I've kind of thought about that a little bit, but I kind of lean against no, because really there hasn't been time to really practice that. It's been basically, we've had game. So I don't think that that's the way it is. And I think you also kind of look about how poor our performances were at the start of the season with the back three. I think that there's just not enough time to really want to tinker with that, because then you're really changing a lot of people's roles. I think that you probably do your best to just put somebody in that left back role.
Yeah, Paul?
I think the other worry is that Saka's just coming back from a niggle hamstringy thing. And do you really want him running 100 yards and the extra stress and strain of playing a different position, different movements? I think if you bring Saka back in, you bring him and play him pretty much where he's played before, at least in this game.
I think one of the interesting options is to move Pepe to the left and play him with Cedric, as suggested here. And I say suggested here because I took one quick glance to say the name, and with all due respect, there are options. I can say the name poorly, which would reflect a lack of sensitivity on my part, or I can just say
Scumbuzo Zwane.
That could be well handled. Scumbuzo? You know what? If you want to phonetically spell it in there, I'd love to get it right, because we do need to start being a podcast that does that, or a show. I think this is interesting. I think Pepe and Cedric on the left has worked, and I do think that he has tended to want a left footer and a right footer together on either flank. So maybe that is something that he would go with. Let me give you my lineup in a second, but let me ask you a question, Paul, and this is a tricky one, and we try to keep it light on this show, but this is a serious topic, and I'm loath to even touch on it, because I would prefer it not be a topic that we have to discuss. But obviously, racist abuse was a really big talking point after Slavia Prague's last game in the Europa League. It's disgusting, it's unfortunate, and it's the kind of thing that, we wish we didn't have to talk about. But the reason I raise it is not so we can all sit here and say we condemn it in the strongest language possible, because that's pretty obvious. I do wonder if you think that sort of thing influences the players and their desire to go out and fight against a team like this, and to what extent it can lead to being too wound up, or the appropriate level of wind up. I think it was, who was it? Who smashed? Was it Gareth Bale? Yeah, for Wales. Gareth Bale.
For Wales, yeah.
And I think everybody loved
broke
that. But in the context, broke his nose, which God bless him. But in the context of a game like this, theoretically VAR looks at it and it's a red card. So how do you think that topic simmering in the background influences the mindset of the players, if at all?
I think we're 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon separated from that particular heat and that moment, and we got enough shit on our plate, right? Did Elliot say the name?
I said the name. I did. Apparently I said it right. And I'm so glad because I appreciate you for watching and I appreciate you for commenting. So go ahead. Sorry, Paul. By the way,
I don't mean to be argumentative, but I actually think I got it closer to his name than you did.
Okay. I mean, he disagrees, but let's not bring facts into it as we rarely do. So yeah, sorry, continue your point. This is an important topic and I've interrupted it by celebrating pronunciation. So sorry.
Yeah, I hope we come into this pretty cold-blooded. We've got our own stuff to deal with. It's everybody's fight, but the subtleties is the wrong word. The distinctions in this particular fight are not ours, and it can be a mess when you jump into somebody else's fight. So I hope we come into this cold. To your point, like, it's reprehensible. I didn't like the Gareth Bale thing. I mean, I enjoyed it.
That's an interesting take. I'm curious.
Yeah, but I just think these things can go into chaotic ways. It's like it fires up both sides.
Yeah. I don't mind a little street justice, but I certainly take your point about, where you draw the line on that.
How do you contain it?
I mean, Scott, do you think that this factors into the mentality of how the players will approach the game at all?
I mean, I don't know because yes, Slavia Prague has had the issues, but Thierry Henry just got, hounded off of social media because of the abuse that he's gotten. So I don't think this is something that is specific to one club. It seems to be pretty endemic to European football. It's a major issue, and I honestly don't know what to do about it. So I don't know if there's something particular about this match that will bring up even more. I think this is just a sickening, horrible thing that it just happens with athletes right now, and I don't know what to do. So I don't know if there's anything higher or different about this one. I guess it's because there's a specific player who had an issue, and that's something I think FIFA has really kind of fallen down on, not really being able to do a lot of enforcement or do any sort of punishment. Because it was a one-game kind of ban, I guess, for while he's being investigated, but it's like he's already out injured. So it's like, what was even the point of this? So I think that is something that, if we're going to see that, we need to see more from the top. And then I don't know really about what else to do with the fan issues that are going on.
Yeah, I look, it is despicable that stuff happens. It needs to stop. Obviously, again, you don't need us sitting here saying racism bad. I think that the need to do that is totally unnecessary. But in the context of sport is emotion. Sport is, clearing your mind, being focused, how you get yourself ready for a game. If you watch the Michael Jordan documentary that came out recently, the meme, and I took that personally. Right? Michael Jordan used to create reasons to be mad at the opposition. He would manufacture reasons to get himself angry and want to go out and tear their heart out. And if the reason that we want to go tear their heart out is because of fighting racism, I'm all for it. Whatever it is, and that would be a perfectly good reason to go out and want to tear them to pieces. I do have to admit, I listened to Louis Ambrose on the Arsblog pre-match show on his Patreon, and it gave me the fear, TM. So they are not bad. They beat Leicester, who are 7 places above us in our own league. I think that is worth considering. I'm going to pick the lineup, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we expect from the game. I think it'll be Bellerin at right back. I have Holding and Gabriel at center back, Leno obviously in goal, Cedric at left back, Partey and Xhaka, Smith Rowe, Saka, Pepe, Aubameyang. That's what I think we will see. But Pepe on the left and Saka on the right. I think, ultimately, I do think that Aubameyang is our best center forward, and I think we'll see that again tonight. If you listen to Lewis's pre-match discussion, one of the things that he talked about is actually that they are a bit Leeds-like in their approach, that they will press, that they'll push up the pitch. And I don't know if you remember, but we played Leeds, and a guy named Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang had one of those 3-goal thingies. He did a 3-goal, which they're calling a hat trick. So, Paul, in terms of how we played against Leeds and our effectiveness against them, you always hate to say this team is like that team, so it's going to go exactly like that. But if that stylistically is what they do, then certainly I think we would combat it with what we stylistically did against Leeds. Is that too simplistic?
No, I think the other thing Lewis focused on a lot was the man-to-man marking part of it, which is critical. It's not just that they press, other teams press, but these guys do that leads thing. They literally man-to-man mark. And so the key thing is to have guys who break that system. That's why he was so keen on Smith Rowe, because Smith Rowe will drag his marker all over the pitch. He'll make those runs. It's why I'm a little bit against Willian, who I think could be a very good player, but in a man-to-man system, he doesn't lose his marker. He doesn't move around the pitch as much as Smith Rowe. He won't tear them a new one positionally. And once one player breaks, he was talking about watching them. I think it was against Leicester, and like the fullback marking on their team, marking their man, literally followed the Leicester player across the pitch. I think it was Madison he was talking about, like all the way across the pitch and back. Like you can destroy their structure because they're torn between the pressing and the man-to-man and having structure. So this is really the post-Lewis blog rewatch instant reaction podcast, which could become a thing. But I thought that was like, sometimes you listen to people talking about or doing a preview and you think, oh, that was very interesting. What did I really glean from it? I can't actually get anything concrete that, apart from they press a lot. Well, I thought Lewis's was really good on this. He's known them from playing Dortmund a couple of years ago, and he watched the Leicester games and I think maybe even the Tottenham games. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I want to answer, yes, you can get your drink orders in today. We are filling drink orders, obviously, so whatever you want to have, we'll get that for you, get it right out to you. We're running a little behind at the bar, but we'll get them out as quickly as we can. A lot of questions coming in about Martinelli. And Scott, I just think, as talented as Martinelli is, this is not going to be his season. Like, that seems pretty clear. Arteta's got him in training, supposedly working on center forward stuff. He's not going to start center forward tonight. I don't think he loves him positionally on the wing. We know that from the United game where he started there and got subbed off at halftime, because apparently, from what I think James Gunnerblog said, you could hear at the ground is just him constantly trying to coach him into position and then eventually taking him off. So Martinelli's time will come. I don't think any of us doubt his talent, but do you think that it's fair to say that both in the context of tonight and this season overall, this just probably is a get back to fitness and learn a new role season for him, and he's not going to play much of a part?
Yeah, and I think you kind of look at where our season has gone, that this is kind of where all of our eggs are right now. So they are all in the Europa League basket. So I don't think this is going to be a time to really kind of go with the younger players that are trying to find their spot on the roll. Or so maybe, we actually have a pretty good run of games in the Premier League where, we should be favored. So maybe those will be the times that we could see a Martinelli be able to come into a match. So I don't think this is necessarily the match for him. And that's not anything, because I love Martinelli. I think that he's amazing and I want to see him, but I just don't think that, given where we need to do with these matches, I don't think this was the right time for him. And I think that's kind of the reason why none of us picked him. I think he should be on the bench, and, we have 5 subs in this competition. So maybe if we need something late, it would be a good thing for him to come on. But yeah, I don't think starting.
All right. Do you think it's okay if we do a little tomfoolery, just real quick? Everybody up for a little tomfoolery? I think we have to, quite frankly, celebrate what, and I want to get it right, N5 Librarian, the Highbury Librarian, did on Twitter. It is absolutely exceptional. And I'm going to do this now. I'm going to go to full screen first so you can say, well, you know what? Full screen didn't help. So I'll keep it on full screen because it didn't do anything. This is the ArsenalVision post-match podcast bingo card. And I want to recommend to everybody listening right now, to everybody watching this right now, that you get this from Highbury Librarian, N5, let me get it right again, N5 Librarian on Twitter. And it's his pinned tweet. And you grab yourself a drink, and you keep this handy for this show or for any show, because you're gonna be drinking. I was literally doing our Premier League podcast for patrons yesterday and said, over my ski, and this card came into my head, you guys, and I had to stop myself because the over my ski tips was coming out. Paul, I know you feel a little hard done by in terms of the volume of your contributions here. Do you have a contribution specifically, Paul, that you think should be here?
Yeah. I probably didn't get past the censors, but fuck them.
Oh, also, hey, live stream, going out to people.
No?
It's,
Okay.
Let's pass on it.
Bleep 'em.
You know, a
Bleep 'em.
little bit. By the way, real quick to those of you who are watching, just real quick. We are on Twitch now, and if you're not watching on Twitch and want to watch there, it's AVPMP, Arsenal Vision Post-Match Podcast, AVPMP. It's in 1080p there. It's in 1080p on YouTube, potentially, depending on the strength of the cup and string that's beaming this out to everybody. But so just want to let you know, and if you are watching on Twitch, thank you for being there, and we hope to do more of these, and you can watch them there if you want. Maybe we'll even do some FIFA stuff. That could be fun. All right, so back to this. What would your addition have been? Is there an addition that you would have liked to have seen on this card?
Moi. Well, apart from that one,
Toi.
which maybe my problem is I move around too much on my expressions because actually they got my two.
Yeah.
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste.
Cocktail dress. Cocktail.
What about
Toulouse-Lautrec.
sad situation? I think that
Oh
could have been it.
yeah. It's a sad,
Scott, what about
situation.
What about you? Do you see a missing candidate here? I mean, you can only fit so many on here before it becomes illegible, or becomes an entire podcast. Frankly, here's an interesting, funny thing. You can try this at home. If you read these in order, left to right, it's an entire podcast. So yeah, Scott, do you have one?
I think there's lots of good stuff in here. I mean, it's definitely. I definitely see some things that I would definitely say in here. Yeah, I don't. Who says
would definitely be one of them?
I definitely oversay definitely. Who does say the tulips? I don't know if I've ever really remember hearing that one too often.
Tulips? I think that's a Clive one.
Okay.
There's one we've had quite recently that I think is good, which is other teams do tactics too.
I like that. Yeah, yep. I like other teams do tactics too. There's a lot of good ones in here, and I have to say that I have this in my head now, and I find myself doing the show concerned about saying those. So, that is something that I got to watch out for.
To make me say it more is the problem. Like I tried to cut down on the toothpaste stuff. Then I decided I needed a good substitute, so I tried tomato paste. That didn't work. I tried the glue in your bicycle repair kit.
This should be Death by Snoo should be Death by Bongo Bongo, but the Death by Snoo, that's Futurama, right? Death by Bongo Bongo is the classic joke, and Death by Snoo is Futurama, I believe. Missing a center square of Elliot being annoying. You don't need a center square here. Let me show you. That's the center square. There it is. It looks something like that, but thank you for that. There's Death by Bongo Bongo in the comments. Okay,
yeah,
so Zone 14. Good shout. Good shout. Yeah. Hey, we got a question for Paul. Paul, you've become our vaccine expert on the pod. I just got vaccinated. Does that mean I never have to wash my hands again?
No. In fact, the fact that you asked that question, I would strongly advise you wash your hands straight away, you filthy bugger.
And there is a recommendation that you should lean into cursing and toothpaste. We're all here for it. Fair enough. William is not a left winger by Tim. That is a great shout. I am getting my first jab, my first vaccine in this week arm. Maybe it'll be in this week arm. I don't know. Maybe it'll be in Rwanda, or maybe it'll be in the Premier League. Who knows? On Friday. So I'm excited for that. Scott, what about you? Any things getting poked into you in the near future?
I get my second shot on the 21st, so I'm
awesome.
I'm already got my first one and I'm ready to go.
Really
so
good.
I'm feeling good, feeling invincible.
Let's get to some.
Get out there, French kissing.
Let's get into some fun stuff, and this is an idea that I wanted to try out, and I hope we'll get some participation from the comments. Hot takes we might believe, so it's not things that you're like sure are true, but hot takes that you think might be a thing you're ready to believe. So I will throw a bunch of the comments into the show as you throw them out there. Paul, do you have one in mind, or do you want me to throw this to Scott first?
I could give it a go. So I've discovered in thinking about it, because you warned us, that I think there's a gene for this, and I don't have it. But I tried to fake. You definitely have the gene to generate hot takes. It may have skipped my line of the species. I'm going to go with it's Aziz time.
It's Aziz time. Okay, so your hot take you think you believe is that it is already Aziz time. Where would you play him?
So I think he's potentially included in the squad today. He's included in the traveling squad. I just think because you guys had a really interesting conversation yesterday on the PL pod, and you were talking about our young fellas. So my takes are all actually related. I think our young fellas, none of them are going to make it. I think we should sell all of them. Maybe keep Willock around for 1 year.
So you don't think Saka or Smith Rowe are going to make it? Cool. That is a hot take. I would not have expected that.
I think for all the things you talked about using Willock for, ESR is the Willock we need and should take all his minutes and can do everything we wanted Willock to do for us. And for Maitland-Niles and everything he could have been for us in midfield, Aziz will be the guy going forward. And we should sell all our young guys who all have superpowers. Like we know what they are, but they also all have super flaws and are not a top 6-ish team. Neither are we, but it's our club, so we get to decide who's in and who's out. So my hot take is around the young fellas. I think sell them all. It's Aziz time. He'll be the next one to join Saka, Smith Rowe. Okay,
I don't mind that. I think that is a lukewarm take, but I realize that you're not wired for the hot takes. By the way, what does a hot take mean? We're getting questions. Oh, you come to the right place. Maybe I can explain to you what a hot take is. So a hot take is basically a sort of a bold claim, a claim that if you like put it on Twitter, you'd have to shut down your mentions or mute the conversation or something like that. It's a, and again, it doesn't have to be dumb. It's just sort of a fringe or out there or heterodox view that people might not warm to because it's too big. It feels
You're over your ski tips.
I am getting over my ski tips. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so the hot take from Paul
goes against the hashtag. Goes against the narrative.
A hot take will often go against the narrative or question the narrative. All right, Scott, I'm going to give you a chance to give us a hot take you might believe. What is a hot take you might believe?
Thomas Partey has been a big disappointment for Arsenal, and they probably shouldn't have signed him this year. I think that's the hot take that I'm going with.
Wow, flamethrower. That is all right. So for the person who was asking what is a hot take, this isn't a hot take. This is the meme, the GIF where the guy walks in with the pizzas and the room is on fire. You are the embodiment of that. So Thomas Partey was a mistake. We should not have bought him. Please explain yourself, and then I want to distance, even though maybe there's a part of me in there, I want to distance myself from it just so I don't get the abuse. He's at _that_crab. Go ahead, Scott.
All right. So, I mean, I guess part of it is coming through, and it isn't necessarily, some of it's not his fault. I think that this probably could go towards Arteta and Edu, where if Arsenal were deciding that it was okay to spend the money all up front to trigger his release clause, they probably really should have done it a lot earlier in the summer. Because one of the things that I think has been a disappointment is that it just hasn't been available. Part of that is that he didn't join the team until after the season started. So he already missed, I think, the first 2 or 3 games of the season. And then he's been not available through injury. And I think part of that could be that he didn't get preseason. He didn't really get up to speed on doing the fitness, kind of getting through things, being able to build up with the team. He was kind of thrown right in. So I think that's been one of the biggest disappointments. And then I think I've also had some kind of he hasn't really taken over matches when he has played. I think that's been something where he's been a lot of 6, 7 out of 10. I haven't really seen anything where, you spend 50 million on a guy and I want a lot of 8, 9 out of 10 performances. And there really hasn't been any of those. I think a lot of times he defers too much to Xhaka. And, if this is going to be the guy that we expected to kind of come through and fix the midfield, I haven't seen that. He's been more on the periphery. He's had moments of goodness where I really do kind of see the talent that Arsenal saw in him. But I think a lot of times he's been too easy to kind of disappear into games and hasn't done enough for me. So I think that's been the thing that's really kind of disappointed me. So it's not that he's a bad player. I just think he hasn't lived up to the price. And I think a lot of people are really been kind of too reluctant to say that. And where everybody's like, oh, just give him time. But it's like, we spent a ton of money on a guy who's at peak age. We need it now.
Yeah. A couple things real quick. If you're going to give us a hot take, put hot take in your comment so that when I put it up on the screen, people don't just fully abuse you or think that we are saying that we agree with that, because I don't want to necessarily agree with all your hot takes. So say it's a hot take. Paul, let me ask you a question about Scott's hot take. Before I just ask if you agree with it or think, again, this is hot takes we might believe, not hot takes we definitely believe. Do you think that if Clive was on the live stream, he would find a way to use the technology to fight Scott through the boxes on the screen. Is that a thing that would have happened just now?
Clive, no. Though it's quite interesting with Clive because he's very nice about everybody and everything, but he's great when you get him before and after we do a pod. That's when you get the spicy stuff. The boy has claws. He has stuff to say about people. So in real life, if he was passing Scott on the street, he'd probably nut him, which is in the UK, that means to headbutt you. Scott,
Thanks
not
for the explanation, because
I was expecting a knee somewhere.
They could have very, very opposite reactions to a person.
They could,
depending on which side of the pond you're saying it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So but on his take, it's a terrible take, Scott, and that wasn't what this section was supposed to be. Look, I agree that like the main issue with Partey is we just blew 6 months of his deal with us waiting for him to show up, and it kind of put a hole in the middle of our team, and we didn't get a War or anybody like him because we were getting Partey, even if our first choice was a War, and whatever way you see that happening, maybe we only did Partey because a War didn't happen, but if you just look at it on paper, that's the way we went, and you know that could have huge impacts for our season. It is. Potentially, it could have huge impacts for the manager and for the squad. So, Partey might be the guy who gets Arteta sacked. Now, that's a hot take.
There's a hot take that we might believe. I don't know that we might believe that, but yeah.
You could see how it could happen, right? Bad season, manager under pressure, squad under pressure, no European qualification, all because we signed Partey.
I think you might even say Aubameyang would be the reason Arteta might get sacked.
Clive coming in fire. Hot take. I'm watching you idiots. You're going to be out. By the way, Clive joining in 30. Jessica Black joining in 30. Thank you for watching us. If you want to watch on Twitch, we're AVPMP, ArsenalVision Post-Match Pod, AVPMP. If you want to watch on YouTube, you can. We should be in 1080p there. If you want to watch on Twitter or Facebook, you can. If you want to watch on FaceStream or Twitch or TwitchBook or Live Thumb or whatever, you can. Please like, subscribe, bell, ding, smash button, all of that. Good, got that out of the way. So it's time for me to do a hot take. Aziz is at the stadium. There you go. Aziz in the house.
It's happening.
Go on, Clive. Team is just out. I'm going to. Wow, how is the team out already?
Because they do an hour and a half.
So let me just say this, because we'll get to the team. That's obviously primary importance. Are we sure it's the real team though? Who's put it out? If you guys can let me know who's put it out, because that I don't want to start it scrolling along the bottom of the screen if it's wrong. So if someone can just let me know who put it out. Real quick, guys, before I do the lineup, here, I'll put a lineup. Arsblog just said Oba on the bench. Wow.
Oof. Cedric at left back. Ooh.
Here's what we got. Okay, real quick before we get into this, and I'll get it scrolling along the bottom. But hey, so you want my hot take that I think I believe? Are you guys ready for my fire hot take that I think I believe?
Yes.
I think you can argue we have one of the 4 best squads in the Premier League right now.
What?
I think you can strongly argue that we have one of the 4 best squads. I think you can argue that the only squads that are absolutely clear of us are Liverpool and City and maybe Chelsea. I think you can argue that other than Liverpool and City, we are as good as any other team on talent in the league. And what I would say to you is you can't go out here saying Werner's a flop, and Havertz is a flop, and Pulisic is a flop or having a bad season or whatever. You can't go out here and say that and then list those guys if you're going to say why they're better than us. You can't go out saying Fred is garbage, and Fernandez is, just a free kick merchant, and whatever else we're saying, that
stuff you say.
Wan-Bissaka is just a defensive fullback. Anyway, no, other people say it. But my point is, like, I look at these other teams, and here's what I would say. Aubameyang, Lacazette, Saka, Smith Rowe, Pepe, and Willian. That is a lot of talent up front. Okay,
are we sure Lacazette is good?
Yes, I'm sure Lacazette is good. I'm not sure Lacazette is one of our 3 best front 3 players, but if Lacazette was on any of those other teams and he was a 4th option to play in a front 3 or a backup striker, he would not be City's best backup striker. They don't play with one. He would be the best backup striker at, well, is Jota playing as a striker for Liverpool?
He's been kind of Yeah, kind of.
A second striker, maybe.
Let's put it this way: if Lacazette was the backup to Firmino in a Firmino role, you'd say that's perfectly fine. The point is, who's the center forward that's better than Aubameyang when he's on form playing through the middle?
Vardy?
No. I don't know. I think Vardy's, I think a couple years ago, maybe.
All right. Well, so anyway, so here's my point. So that front line has a lot of talent. Martin Odegaard at 10. We all want to pay $50 million for him. So obviously we think he's really good. He's not Kevin De Bruyne, but there aren't a lot of other players in the league in that role that I think are super better. Thomas Partey, we all think he's brilliant. He's fantastic. He's a midfield, well, except for Scott, who thinks he was a huge bust and we shouldn't have bought him. Granit Xhaka is a weakness. But other than Liverpool, who have a lot of really, 3-star hotels plus Thiago in midfield, other than City, who have 5-star hotels everywhere, who's got a great midfield where both players are really good? Even Chelsea, who have Conte, he's really a specialist. Do we rate Jorginho that highly?
I think Mason Mount has actually been really impressive.
Yeah, Mason Mount's coming on. That's fair. All right, but then, you go to United. They obviously Pogba is sensational. Depends where you rate Pogba versus Partey, different kind of roles. But is Fred any good? Is McTominay that good?
Yeah.
So
he's
okay,
good.
Fair.
They're good.
Now look, Tierney I think is as good as any left back in the league if he can stay fit. We have a right back issue. We have center backs who are okay, and we've got a fine goalkeeper. I think what I'm saying is this perception that we can't go match up with these other teams that are fighting for top 4, they're all flawed. City and Liverpool aside, they're all flawed. And so and again, this is a hot take I might believe. I'm not saying this is a hot take I'm sure of, but I think set up the right, and by the way, since Boxing Day, on metrics, we're one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the league. So when you put this team out there, when you put Smith Rowe and Saka and Oba and Odegaard and Partey and Xhaka out there and Tierney, we are one of the 4 best teams in the league. So you can try to explain how we sucked before Boxing Day with a lack of available players, no Odegaard, no Smith Rowe, no Partey for large stretches. But I think we've shown we're right around one of the 4 best teams since Boxing Day. And I think on talent, that is right. So before we get to the lineup, Scott, let me ask you, how bad a hot take is that hot take? And then don't worry, Paul, I'll let you tell me how terrible it is.
So you said we're one of the 4 best teams?
I think you can make an argument that we are one of the 4 best teams, and the only squads you can without doubt say are better than us are Liverpool and City and maybe Chelsea. That you can't go player for player and say definitively any other team is better than us is where I'm at.
Okay, I don't think it's not a crazy hot take.
Extant Crab, sorry, Extant Crab, I missed this somehow. Scrolling. Extant Crab. Does anyone know where Extant Crab went? I was in the middle of my hot take and I wanted to get Extant Crab's comment in there. But I am struggling to find it. So Extant Crab, thank you. Your drink order will be served, whatever it is, and I apologize for not getting you on the screen. So anyway, I'm going to get to the lineup in a minute. But go ahead, Scott. Sorry, my terrible hot take.
I guess it's not. You are probably pushing it a little bit, and that's what you do for a hot take. I think that like you said, that all these teams have major flaws, and I think that's one of the reasons that the table has been so compressed this season. I think that Arsenal. You could probably make an argument that they're 6th best team. I think that's kind of where I would come down, being more realistic. And I think a lot of that comes down to just that we have, I don't know if we necessarily have a super balanced team. And then I think part of it is also when you start looking at where we have in the backup range, it's not nearly as good as some of the other teams. I think I'm a little bit higher on Chelsea than a lot of teams, or a lot of people are. So I think that pretty much puts them as my 3rd best team. And then I think you can make a pretty good argument about United and maybe Tottenham being better than us or something like that. So I think it's not a horribly hot take. I think that this is a team that we haven't done nearly good enough with the talent that we have this season. And I think that's something that is a big issue for us.
Okay. Paul, you want to souffle me or flambe me?
Yeah, well, your inconsistency, Elliot, you knew this was coming. I mean, you were Mr. Our squad is 17th because we're 17th or whatever.
I think to be fair, I went in on the squad a bit, especially before Boxing Day, but I always, to be fair, I always maintained that it was underperforming where it should be. That the reason I was Arteta out before Boxing Day,
we were the 17th worst squad or something.
If that's the case, then I can only blame it on the fact that I do a lot of intravenous drugs. By the way, excellent crab.
And a lot of pods.
Yeah, your daiquiri will be up soon. So go ahead.
Here's my issue with so I disagree with you basically. I think the squads, like they may not be perfectly balanced, but they have more talent. And one of our biggest flaws is where I might agree with you in terms of talent, we're horribly unbalanced. But anyway, Man City. I'm just looking at what's in the table and going down the ones I think are better. Man City, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool. So there's 4 easy ones for me. You can hate Man United's squad. You can decide that there's a lot of assessment of them against their price tag and their overall budget. The price tag of the player and the money they've spent to acquire all of their players. They got lots of very good players. And the coaching isn't great to get the most out of them, but you see them, like, there's a reason they're second despite bad coaching. It's because they've got their bad players are relatively strong is the problem, even if it's not entirely cohesive. And then you got the counter that we may have more flashy players than Leicester City and West Ham, but they're far more balanced. They have talent and they have far more balance in the talent they do have. So our squad is not stronger than them, but maybe that's not your point. You would concede that we're very unbalanced, right? Even if there's talent there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of flawed squads, which is part of it, right? And to be clear, Paul, this is a hot take that I think I might believe, and I'm not saying I necessarily believe it, but I definitely think that what we are seeing is the squad right now with Odegaard in it, Smith Rowe in it, and Saka's development, M. Thomas Partey being fit, and if Tierney was fit, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see next season, because if you believe that how we've played since Boxing Day is a reflection of improving coaching, but also a reflection of what we're capable of, then you're sort of saying that we're capable of being one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the league on the basis of who we have right now. I want to do this though, Paul, not to cut you off, but we do have a lineup out, and it does have a lot of talking points, and I need to get as mad as possible because the people want rage. The people want anger, and I am here to bring the anger. Paul, this is a terrible lineup. What has he done? What has he done? Let me read it out. Leno in goal, Bellerin, Holding, Gabriel, and Cedric at the back. That makes sense. Shaq and Partey, that makes sense. You have a front 4 of Willian, Smith Rowe, Saka, and Lacazette. Now, Odegaard is not in the team, so I think it is fair to say... by the way, you have a friend. First 11 is maybe squad. Hell no. That's a good point. The squad has a lot of weaknesses, although I'd say up front, we have a lot of talent. We are very much the mullet of teams, the reverse mullet. We got Partey in the front, business in the front, Partey in the back. Yeah. So we're a mullet of a squad. So Paul, I guess, so here's the interesting thing, right? Yeah. In a way, conceptually with this lineup, I like it because I don't think Oba and Lacazette work together. I really don't. And Odegaard's not in the team, so that sucks, but what can you do? You want to move Smith Rowe back into that number 10, which I presume he's done, unless he's using Willian there. So then you're saying, all right, I need wingers on the wing. Saka makes sense. He obviously just refuses to trust Pepe and trust Willian, and I know you're more bullish on that than I am. So I guess the bulk of my anger comes down to picking Lacazette over Aubameyang. And I look at this team, and I just say... There's a guy on our bench who scores 25 goals a season, and there's a guy in our starting lineup who scores 15 a season, and I would prefer it be the other way around. How do you feel?
Yeah, okay, so I have more a tendency to just try and understand why he did what he did. I think he did what he did because he kept the attacking unit that we have seen before work together. Lacazette, he's lost Odegaard, but he's seen Smith Rowe, Lacazette, and Saka connecty dotties with he's got Bellerin in there with those guys coming up, knocking the ball between them. So he wants that on the right because he's going to have to use Smith Rowe. So give these guys some guys working together who know each other. That assumes Willian's on the left. I actually think low-key Willian has been quite good his last 2 performances, and so he'll find a way to connect with Cedric and kind of hold the left. Possession wise, keep it clean, triangles, keep us up the pitch, possession. I know you don't buy that, but I do.
I don't, but I know you do.
Yeah. And so that's why he did what he did. Now, I would have played Aubameyang through the middle and go at them. If they want to go man to man with us up the pitch, great, let's go at it. But I think he's going to use movement between those four guys, including Bellerin, to get himself up the pitch through the man to man and create patterns they can't live with.
So, look, and by the way, Clive is in the chat giving his opinion. He's going to be on the stream in 15 minutes. Just save it for the stream. I don't understand. You're literally going to be on the stream in like 15 minutes. Just save it for that, Clive. Save. What is going on here?
He's in the
chat stealing all our thunder.
He's spilling his candy in the lobby, as they say in my game.
Yeah. So here's look at Bayern Munich last night. And I'd rather not because it makes me cry because I was told that we can compete with Bayern Munich by Ivan Gazidis about 10 years ago. But they had 31 shots. But they only scored 2 goals and they lost the game. They didn't have Lewandowski and Gnabry, right? Sometimes talent just matters a lot. And where I think talent can really matter is against teams that are less talented. Slavia Prague are good, right? They're a good team. I don't think we should underestimate them. But I think when you play a team where you have a talent advantage, lean into that. Get Pepe and Aubameyang attacking a suspect defense. They're missing both their center backs. Does that sound familiar, Paul? From a game at the weekend, perhaps? A team with suspect center backs that we never challenged because Lacazette couldn't hold the ball, couldn't do it. Lacazette was shocking against Liverpool. Shocking. We have a situation in this game with backup center backs. Put dynamic attacking players out there and make their less talented defenders defend. Get Saka, Pepe, and Aubameyang tormenting backup center backs and players that just aren't used to facing that kind of talent game in, game out. They don't concede a lot of goals. This is not a defense that concedes a lot. But they don't play players like Pepe and Saka and Aubameyang every week. Lacazette, more of a middling player. Willian has no goals in him whatsoever. There's the hat trick. Cue it right there. Right? And Saka, I think very talented and potentially has goals. Smith Rowe, I think actually, unlike Odegaard, probably has a little more goal threat, so that's good. But I would just prefer that we lean into our talent, lean into those guys that can individually destroy weak defenders. And the one thing that I will say, and we got this in the comments, so I'm sorry, I popped it up for a minute. This is a 5-sub game. And so Arteta does have the ability to react. Now, subs haven't really been his strong suit, Paul, but He
may see this game come in 2 phases. They press like crazy for 45, 60 minutes, and then we take them. We take them, Elliot. He may see it as Lacazette, you're the first 60. Oba, I need you fresh. I need you to run at him when the storm is calmed. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, well, let's talk a little bit about Aubameyang. You open to a little Aubameyang chat right now?
Yep.
Where do you stand on Oba in terms of the season he's having and where I mean, look, I think the argument that a lot of people have is Lacazette probably doesn't have a future at Arsenal, or if we're not totally stupid, he doesn't. If we give Lacazette a contract, then whatever. I mean, the club can't help itself. But Aubameyang does have the contract. It's a big one, and he's not going anywhere. So if you just want to say they're different players, they had different things, but one of them is a superstar. We paid superstar money to be the talisman of the club. We have a bigger reason to want to lean into him anyway. Or is that too extrinsic to an individual game decision? You obviously have to pick the team you think will win the game.
Look, this is a critical moment in the season. Would we all agree? So worrying about who has a contract next summer is irrelevant. Plus, squad harmony now is key. So, we don't know all the dynamics. It worries me that Aubameyang isn't starting because it seems like it's playing into a very plausible narrative that there's still an issue there between Aubameyang and this squad, between Arteta and Aubameyang. I hope that's not the case. I hope it's clear at the end of this game that this was a 1-2 punch. We start with Lacazette. We're boxing clever. We bring Aubameyang in on 60 minutes to tear him a new one, maybe pulling Lacazette off so that they can see it's a clear 1-2 punch, not just, let's throw on an additional striker. I hope that's what we're doing here. But I mean, it's another brave call by the manager. Fair play to him. Not just in terms of the lineup and the significance of this game, but the fact that it invites the questions about what is he doing with man management, etc. The kind of shit you don't need. Like if you're 50-50 on do you play Aubameyang or Lacazette and you're going back and forward, give yourself less headache and play Aubameyang, far less questions. Well, he clearly has an idea why he wants to do this. Is it issues in terms of personnel off the pitch, or is it footballing reasons? You got to think it's footballing reasons. Even if we scratch our head, why? I think the thing we don't factor in all the time is that Arteta may not be convinced that a conventional striker through the middle is the be-all and end-all. It's not for other people. It's not for other teams. It wasn't for Johan Cruyff. It's not, in some ways, it's not even for Bielsa, right? He uses Bamford. Bamford's being very successful scoring goals, but
Paul,
yeah.
But he gave him the two things don't square for me.
I'm not saying he's not going to play him. He just
No, I know, but like what I'm saying is, if there is a fit issue or a philosophical issue about not needing that type of striker as a priority for his football, he certainly paid him like his performances were the absolute most important thing at our club. That's how he's being compensated.
The piece you're missing
Real
from
quick,
what I'm trying to say.
Let me just explain what's on the screen so people don't know why I have it up there. This is Aubameyang's last 6 seasons of goals and assists per 90. So 6 seasons ago, or 5 seasons ago, because one of these is a split season between Dortmund and Arsenal, he was scoring a goal a game, then 0.83, 0.85, 0.73, 0.63, and 0.4 this season. You also see his assists next to that. So his goals plus assists down every season, down substantially this season, the lowest he's had in 5 seasons. So it just sort of confirms what we've been concerned about. But sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that feeds into a bottom up. Here's our player. Where should we play him? That's not what Arteta's doing. He has a footballing philosophy. It's a process. He's trying to get there. I know you are fixated on where is best for Aubameyang. He's fixated on how does he get to the style of play he's looking for. He may see Aubameyang more as his Sterling than his Aguero. And
that's fine. Yeah, sure. Paul,
so it's not about playing him through the middle for him.
Okay, and by the way, like I don't have a problem. I guess all I would say is this is where I totally agree with Tim that Arteta needs someone in his ear stronger than Edu, because if what you're saying is right, I'm fine with that. If it's a 27-year-old on 140 grand a week, if it's a 31-year-old on 300 grand a week, I'm not okay. And again, Paul, I'm not disagreeing with you on the merits. Thanks, by the way, Jonathan. Your scotch is on the way. Bar is a little backed up right now, but we're going to get it out to you. And Extant Crab, our absolute hero. Yeah, when a star players come in the final year of a contract or is linked with a big move, do you think it's ever sensible to re-sign them? Seems to me the right choice every time is to move on. I think if you can re-sign them to sell them for more money, that's fine. But yeah, I tend to agree. There aren't a lot of scenarios where that star player gets one more bumper contract at their same club and then goes on to match their expectations. The saying that always sticks with me, and you know this, Paul, is give contracts for what you want the player to do next, not what the player has done already. And so I don't disagree with your point about Arteta's philosophy on football and how he wants to use Aubameyang, but I think if that is correct, then someone needed to be in his ear and say, we can do better economically. If that is the case, we can find you someone who can fit that role a little better without costing us 3 players worth of wages into his 31, 32, 33-year-old seasons. So,
Amen. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I think the Aubameyang contract was somewhere between a mistake and a big mistake.
Mm-hmm. Let me throw one more Aubameyang statistic up on the screen. Jessica Black is here. She's going to be joining us momentarily. And then Clive is going to join, although since Clive is in the chat, maybe we'll just let Clive keep chatting away in the chat. You can do that. Here we go. So here's another Aubameyang stat, and this is the Aubameyang ranks right now. This is for the Premier League per 90, 57th percentile in non-penalty goals per 90, 74th percentile non-penalty expected goals per 90, which again, that's top quartile just about. That's not what you want from him. 53rd percentile for shots, 36th for assists, which again, if you're going to play him on the wing, I think you need more than 29 percentile for expected assists per 90. His total goal contribution, NP, XG, and XA is just 61 percentile, and shot creating actions just the 20th percentile. Paul, if you compare that with players that we use out on the wing like a Smith Rowe, who in the XA and shot creating actions area is going to vastly outperform that, this is my point, right? I take your point about where he wants him and what his philosophy for him is, but you look at the output you get from him there, and those ranks do not support that role, in my view.
So, like, this isn't a great season overall. He's used Aubameyang, especially recently, he's used him through the middle often enough. I guess my point is we might need to leave it a little longer. I don't think he's hung up. He's not as hung up as us on playing him through the middle. I don't think he's wedded that he always has to start from the wing. And, you know, the problem is it's a very long conversation and we're all focused on how do we get the most out of Aubameyang. Yeah. I get that. He's not. He's focused on how does he get the level of performance up so that we're not in this trading zone of 2 steps back and 2 steps forward. And it's not by focusing on just how to get the most out of Aubameyang.
Oh, yeah, and you know, I just want to make a point for what Andrew Todd is saying. Come on, almost no one thought the re-signing of Oba was anything less than a screaming imperative. This is important to me. I don't care about being right or wrong. Clearly, I'm fine being wrong in public, and I'm going to bring Jessica Black on just 1 second. But Paul, I think you'd agree. This isn't us retconning our opinions to fit the outcome. This was a discussion that we hotly debated in the summer, and I only say that just because hindsight is always 20/20, and there are definitely cases where we all lean into an opinion that we didn't hold previously. In this case, I think this was a concern, a concern that we had. Justin pointing out Lacazette is top scorer, no question. Look, I mean, if you think Lacazette has earned, no, it shouldn't be. If your feeling is Lacazette is the better player and deserves the position right now, that is one way to look at it. I also think if we think that Slavia Prague and Leeds play similarly, and Aubameyang had a hat trick against Leeds, again, reductive thinking, maybe we got to bring Jessica in though here. So I want to add Jessica Black to the stream now. You can find her at It's Jessinho. She knows Arsenal podcast. Hello, Jess.
Hey, how are you guys?
We're having a freak out over the lineup. Come join us. Let me just do this. Let me just throw it to you, Jess, because Clive is going to join us shortly. Jess, are you having a freak out over the lineup?
No, I'm not.
All right, well, that was Jessica Black. Everybody, you can find her on It's Jessinho. Jess, this is the meltdown section of the pod. We're going to do the reasonable analysis section when Clive joins.
Okay, well, just to back up a little bit, I was listening backstage about, whether, everybody, like the majority of Arsenal fans, thought it was a good idea to re-sign Aubameyang. I have to say that me and my mom in particular thought it was a bad idea to re-sign him. So it's not the entire fan base. It's just the louder of the fan base was saying, sign the ting, sign the ting. But there was some of us sitting in a dark corner in the back like, not sure if this is going to go the right way.
Can I ask you a question since you brought that up? Mm-hmm. Is there a signed a ting where they signed a ting that worked out for us? Theo signed the ting and it didn't work out. Ozil signed the ting, it didn't work out. Aubameyang has signed a ting, so far it hasn't worked out. Is the ting maybe the problem? Like, do we need to get rid of the ting, whatever the ting is?
Honestly, I don't know what it is, but it just seems like when we make these decisions, like with the Ozil situation, it's like you would think that you would go so far in the other direction based on the way that it, now we have evidence of how this scenario can play out. And whether or not you thought it was a possibility or not, or what the percentages were of it happening or not, I think if that's an option at all, that he's going to fall off a cliff, not score as many goals, not outperform his XG, then, you have to take the other route, even if it seems harder. But in regards to the lineup, I predicted this exact same lineup with Aubameyang in it because I wasn't sure if Arteta would be confident enough to go into a big game and drop him. But now that I've seen that Odegaard is not starting, I think you can make a kind of like a concession about it based on that. The combination of Smith Rowe at the 10 position with Lacazette and Saka has been very good for us. It may not give us as many goals, but it's effective. So if you think about it from that perspective, that Smith Rowe doesn't have the same vision and technical quality of Odegaard to find Aubameyang through the lines and we're going to be playing short 1-2 passes, it's better to have Lacazette through the center than Aubameyang. And quite frankly, after the last 2 games, West Ham and Liverpool, I was not looking forward to seeing Aubameyang off of the left and Lacazette through the middle. Of course, I don't want to see Willian, but I just think he had to make a decision, pick either Lacazette or Aubameyang, and he picked Lacazette.
All right. Yeah, I mean that seems rational. I don't love it. You know that. I want to get a little more outraged about it, and we will momentarily. I also want to ask you about Smith Rowe and Willian. But Paul, before we go with you, because we're going to be bringing in Clive and putting 4 people on this screen, strains the cup and string that delivers this to people. So, do you have a prediction for tonight in particular?
2-1 to the Arsenal.
2-1 to the Arsenal?
Yep.
Would you take 2-1
won't
to
feel
the
great.
Arsenal? No. 2-1 where we're like it should have been better, or 2-1 where we're like we got out of jail?
2-1 where it feels like that was about right. Yeah. I think it might take us the first half to get our arms around these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I would take 2-1. This is at the Emirates tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, clean sheet would be good. We love you, Paul, is the message. I do as well, my friend, and I enjoyed speaking with you, and I will probably speak with you on our Patreon pod after the game, which is an instant reaction podcast. So if you love more of this tomfoolery, you can sign up for our Patreon and get the instant reaction within 1 hour of full time. Thank you, Paul.
Up the Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal, indeed. We'll see you soon, buddy. All right, that's Paul. So we're going to bring Jess back on now. And Jess, let's talk Willian and Smith Rowe, and Clive is about to join us as well. So with Willian and Smith Rowe here, this is one of those, I hate asking this question because it's a classic example to guess and be proven wrong in 57 minutes. But do you think there's any possibility that Smith Rowe will keep that left-sided role and that Willian will actually play sort of between the lines as more of a 10, or do you assume it'll just be Smith Rowe as a 10, rebuilding that sort of right-sided relationship with Saka that we saw him? What was that game where we scored that beautiful goal where Smith Rowe and Saka exchanged those passes? Can't remember the game. West Brom. Yeah, there you go. Hopefully Slavia Prague are about as good as West Brom. But do you have an instinct on how that'll play out?
Well, I think in this system, the left winger, the left forward plays more like a 10 anyway. So I think Willian will be pinched in, and play closer to Smith Rowe, and they'll both play in between the lines. That's my assumption. I don't think it'll be Smith Rowe out wide and Willian at the 10. I don't see how that would be successful in any way because he's never shown any success in that position for us in the past. So I would assume that Willian will be out wide, but will come more centrally to be more of an attacking midfielder versus a winger. But I'm not sure how that's going to work with Cedric because he's not going to be able to hold the width because obviously he's not left-footed. So we'll see how that kind of all plays out. But I would just assume Willian is the winger and Smith Rowe is the 10.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I think, I don't like that. Let's not do that. Way too close. Yeah. That is a wrong button click if ever I saw one. Yeah, Clive is coming. He's going to be in the building momentarily. Jess, I mean, I'm not expecting you to be a Slavia Prague expert. If you are, that's awesome, and I'd love to hear about it. But I listened to some preview podcasts about it and read some tactical articles. It does seem like Slavia Prague are going to, and you never know, away versus at home, although I think in empty grounds, it's not as important in terms of the way people play. And it is a little silly that we're still doing the away goals rule with no fans in the stands. But they do apparently like to press. They'll push up a bit. They'll challenge us. I wonder if that changes a little with apparently they're missing both of their center backs. Look, it's going to be hard to avoid a lot of this debate revolving around the decision not to start Aubameyang. Let's talk about the decision not to start Pepe for a second, though. I realize people get really frustrated with Pepe, but I also look at the games where he's been given the start, and it's like City and it's Liverpool. He often gets starts in these big games where, if he's lucky, he has one chance to get in behind and do something. But in all these other games that he's come off the bench, and you might say this is why he's not starting, when he's come off the bench, he's been a huge influence, looking really difficult to stop, really difficult to control. I mean, the West Ham game, he was a force of nature, I thought, in helping us come back from the deficit. So I struggle with the Willian thing. I understand that there is a perception that he is this sort of possession-oriented, build-to-play kind of player. He's a 73% career passer. He is a push and run in behind kind of player who gets crosses in. That's what he does. And I don't know that sometimes I think we imbue players with the qualities that we'd like them to deliver for our side. But I don't know that that's what they do. Like, we always talk about Lacazette being this brilliant hold-up player, when in fact, we've seen him struggle with that. I thought against Liverpool was a great example. We couldn't get out, in part because he wasn't able to hold the ball up and distribute. Now, to be fair, in his start against West Ham, he came absolutely to life, and not just with the goals he scored, but also you think about that ball he played into Saka, where Saka could have done better with his finish, and that is good Lacazette. So with respect to how we're going to try to create chance, I mean, this is the thing. When Arsenal have been bad this season, we just have no attacking threat at all. 3 shots against Liverpool. This is not Liverpool, mind you, but that's the problem to solve. And I look at this lineup and I do see the potential for us to maybe build play okay, but not really create enough chances or goal threats. So do you think that it's harsh on Pepe to miss out, especially given that he's chosen Lacazette, someone who's going to look more to facilitate than maybe get his own shot?
Well, yeah, a little bit. I think it is a little harsh. I do agree with you that the games where he hasn't looked great, the whole team hasn't looked great because we've been playing maybe a more superior opposition and we just couldn't get things going. So I do think so, especially when you look at the fact that the person that's going to be starting is Willian, who's done really nothing, this entire season for us, if we're honest. So yes, I do think it's harsh, but I think if you look at Pepe and the way Arteta's trying to play him, he thinks he's the right winger. He hasn't played him off of the left in a while, so then you're picking either him or Saka. And I think to a certain extent, whether Saka is 100% fit or not, he's always going to choose Saka over Pepe. So they're fighting for a position and he's just losing that battle. It's unfair, but it just is what it is. And I think Arteta trusts certain players over others. I think Pepe falls in the not trusted category, whereas Willian somehow is in the trusted category. I don't know how that works, but there's just certain players that he leans towards, that it doesn't make sense to us, but maybe there's something they're seeing in practice. I really don't know, but it is a little harsh on Pepe.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is an interesting point that Alex Stamp makes. Not having fans in the stands, there's so many things that are different because of that. Arteta, a lot of these coaches I think are going to struggle actually, because a lot of them have gotten comfortable being able to literally provide instructions for players on the pitch in game, right? Which you can't do in a loud ground. No problem at the Emirates. Just kidding. I'm kidding. But do you think that he'd make some of these calls in a full stadium? Do you think he starts Willian, benches Aubameyang if there's 61,000 Arsenal fans at the Emirates that are going to be, look, let's face it. I like Arteta. I'm rooting for him. I still am on board. And Clive joining right now, by the way. But if there's 61,000, let me throw this to Clive. Do you mind if I throw this question to Clive first, since, everybody's clamoring to get Clive in the podcast? You can find Clive on Twitter at ClivePAFC and on our podcast and in the chats for our live streams. Hello, Clive. How are you, buddy?
Hey, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Hey, Jess. You all right?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
Look, the gear's looking sharp.
Started.
The rum has started. He's got the rum. He's got the great glasses as ever. The Arsenal gear is in. I have the Aubameyang here, so I'm on the bench just like him. Clive, let me ask you the question. Do you think that Arteta would be making some of these big calls in a packed Emirates? Would Willian be starting? Would Aubameyang be on the bench in a packed Emirates, knowing that you run the risk of that painful "you don't know what you're doing" chant ringing around the stadium? You know how the fans can be. I'm not saying he deserves it, but do you think he'd make these calls if there were fans in the stands?
Let's be honest, right? We're losing a little bit of confidence, aren't we? That's what it's all about. Calls are great when you feel confident in your manager and then you try to find a way to explain them. I felt today for sure that he would have somebody quick up front. It'll be Martinelli or Aubameyang, and he's chosen neither. And Elliot, we both agree that Aubameyang should be centre forward. But that's maybe something in our minds we agree with. I really feel that actually if you take out what you feel and what you know is right for the team and then look at how he's actually playing, you might have a different opinion. And, Yeah, I want Aubameyang to play up front. I feel he would, and I really feel strongly he was getting it, and the team was getting it, playing with him. And then he loses his alarm clock pre-Spurs, and since then, he's been soft and sensitive and sulky, and every bad touch he carries it like a weight on his shoulders, and we all look at him and think, oh, he's not happy, he's not smiling. And so, yeah, we carry this stuff. You know, I carry it. I say we, I really mean we. You know, I feel we carry this stuff. We had our player, we had him centre forward, and we were starting to look really good. And then we pivoted, and we pivoted straight on Spurs. And so, yeah, I'm tense, right? I look at the team and I'm tense. That's why I'm drinking, right? I'm tense.
Wait. If you were not tense, you wouldn't be drinking? I don't believe you. I call BS.
I'm drinking because I'm really worried about tonight, because it feels, for some reason, it feels like, did it feel like a game that we could explode on if it goes wrong? Do you know what I mean? There's an underlying sentiment that people are buying into something long term, but they're really going against their instincts. They want to judge the team just like they judge any other team. And while not everyone looks at the trends in Boxing Day, Elliot, do you know what I mean? Not everyone looks at our XG, 4 XG against, and all the things that you look at could actually see the underlying metrics. I mean, you were very right about Emery. Even when we were winning, you were telling me, this isn't good, Clive. I'm saying, don't be so stupid, mate. I'm the daddy. And you were right? It was built on sand, right? So yeah, I just feel, and it's not just on the podcast crew, because we talk offline, obviously. I feel a real dip in confidence in the manager, and I hope he can turn it around, right? Because I want to see stability so that we can actually build. No stability, we're just going to be in the washing machine.
There it is. Bingo card, baby. We got the bingo card washing machine. Take a drink. There you go. I'll put the bingo card back up in a minute. But yeah, Jess, I mean, look, I think sometimes when you are a fan of a club, and when you do podcasts, and when you're on Twitter, and when you analyze like crazy, you can get too close to it. Is there an argument that like let's put it this way. If you were a neutral with only like one eye on Arsenal, you'd be like, Willian and Lacazette, don't they have Pepe and Aubameyang? You know what? Like, is there a possibility that both Arteta and the fans, that we overcomplicate this, that you can sometimes get too close to your own problems? And I think what Arsene Wenger had an ability to do, to his credit, was know who his talented players were and let them play through it, right? And we would get critical because there's no accountability at Arsenal. If you play poorly, you keep your place. But maybe that's part of it, that when you pay players to be your stars and they have the talent to be your stars, that you find a role for them and you let them play themselves into form. And I realize that I'm undermining things I probably argued against 5 or 6 seasons ago, but is there some of that? Is there maybe a little bit of overthinking how we pick this side, and that Arteta needs to just get comfortable? I mean, our 11 is never the same twice. Surely that can't lead to the kind of rhythm we want to fall into.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, I can see where Arteta may overthink things. It looks like he's overthinking it. I think we had gotten to a point where we knew, if you're going to play Aubameyang, these 3 people need to be behind him. If you're going to play Lacazette, this is how you set up the team. We veered away from that in the West Ham game. We went back to playing Lacazette and Aubameyang up top. It's not working. It didn't work. And we've thrown off our equilibrium. And now we kind of feel like we're at square one, because in the Liverpool game, everything just kind of blew up. So I think this might be his way of trying to get back to that equilibrium of playing the people that play well with Lacazette together. But ultimately, we just don't know until we see it happen. I think there's a little bit too much weight being put on this Liverpool game. I don't think it's like if we don't play amazing today that everything just falls apart, but it just seems like there's a lot of weight on it. And now that Aubameyang's not in the lineup, we're questioning every single thing. But I look at this lineup and see, okay, this looks more balanced to me than the last 2 games. So I'm actually not as worried about it. But we'll have to see. I get the overthinking thing. I get it, but has anything that he's really done really been that great where we could say, like, just stick with that forever? Even when you play Aubameyang, it feels like there's something missing. You play Lacazette, it feels like something is missing. I just think this team is incomplete. It's
Yeah.
just, it's not ready yet. He's still trying to paper it together, so.
But
and-
can I push back on that just for a second, Jess?
Sure, yeah.
Like, this is where I think, and I know people get annoyed about the underlying metric stuff and the advanced metrics and all that, but this is where they can be really helpful, because you can wind up with disappointing results where you should have done better. I mean, Clive and I have rewatched a lot of games we lost where we came away thinking that was better than we thought. Not the Liverpool game, Paul. but I do think that you can look at the advanced metrics and you say, wow, Aubameyang at center forward since Boxing Day, 0.73 expected goals per 90, and the team is a top 4 team in XG. And you could say there's something building there with Odegaard at 10 and Smith Rowe left and Saka right and Aubameyang through the middle. And and I get it. There's no Odegaard tonight and Tierney's out, and this changes that whole thing. And Clive has even said maybe we need to go back to a back 3 to accommodate the players we have fit and available. And I take that into consideration, but isn't this where maybe having those analytics and having a bit of a ability to step back becomes really important? One thing I think is tough for managers under pressure, and young managers in particular, is they have to win the next game, the one in front of them right now. They think one game at a time. When you're a Klopp, when you're a Pep, when you have a big reputation, when you have job security and a huge CV, you can step back and look at it from a distance and say, this is the direction we're heading, and if I use these players and stick with them, I'm going to get there. And there may be pains along the way, but I know the destination. Does Arteta maybe suffer from not having that ability to be patient like that? Because I think if you look at the metrics, what he's done since Boxing Day works, but he's in the washing machine, to Clive's point now. He's getting away from it. He tried weird stuff against West Ham. He tried weird stuff against Liverpool. And now tonight, another variation.
Yeah, I do see that. And I agree with you about when we got to the West Ham game, we veered away from what I think had been kind of working. We had seen that there were certain people that could play together. The chemistry, the partnerships were kind of there. So I do agree with that. And then the Liverpool game, it just didn't work out. I don't know what's going on in this game, because it's not just a game that, he's trying to piece it together because certain people are missing. It's also our most important game. So it's a really difficult decision that he has to make. He clearly sees something where he's like, okay, I need to play Lacazette and put these players in and around him. I just think he's kind of like in that place where he's kind of damned if he, either way. If Aubameyang was in this lineup, everybody would be freaking out about it as well, because he hasn't been playing well. So let's try to see what he's trying to do when the game starts and see if it works or not. But I think this is a really difficult place to be in, where it's your most important game. Key players are missing, and neither of your strikers or offensive combinations seem to be giving the results consistently like we think they should be. But I'm not upset about Aubameyang being dropped. I'm personally not upset. I like seeing Lacazette with these particular young players in and around him. And I think from what I've seen from Slavia Prague, we should still have enough to beat them. And if it's not working out, we can change it.
Yeah.
So.
The 5 subs helps for sure. Real quick, Jess's Twitter handle is It's Jessinho, ITSJESSINHO. There you go. Thank you, Timothy. It's Jessinho. All one word, obviously, like all Twitter handles. And her podcast is She Knows Arsenal, because guess what? She knows Arsenal. Clive, let's talk about Saka for a minute, because, the funny thing about the debate over Aubameyang and the Willian thing is that we've kind of just forgotten that Saka hasn't really been in the team in a while. We haven't seen him play for Arsenal much. He was starting to look a little bit fatigued, I think it's safe to say, and his form maybe fell off a bit. With Lacazette up front and Willian on one side and Smith Rowe having to move back to 10, like, this weirdly feels like a game where there's a lot of responsibility on Saka. I think if you look at that front four right now, say, we got Willian and we got Lacazette and Smith Rowe's good, but we'd rather have Odegaard. The one piece of that front four that you find yourself saying, I really trust him, I really believe he'll get it done, is Saka, who's 19 years old. There's a lot of pressure on him tonight, isn't there?
Yeah, you use that word trust, right? So we just watched the game at the weekend, and there were a number of players that lost a little bit of trust with the manager, and they are not playing, right? So, and that's the truth of it. So you look at this group, these players, and don't forget, this is a home and away tie, so see it in 4 halves. And he's put on his... I'll try to give a perspective on what Arteta's trying to do, if you don't mind, Elliot. And it doesn't mean for the comments that I actually would do it.
Well, someone has to do that for me so that I don't lose my damn mind. Sure, go for it.
he just picked people he can trust. Right, he's literally done that. So Bellerin has played almost all European games, I believe. So it's no surprise he started. So Bellerin starts. Cedric is next man up on the left back, and the two centre backs are the best two, even though the balance isn't quite right for me. I think we miss a bit of possession from the right centre back. So, but we are where we are. The two centre mids, we know the rules. We know what Xhaka's going to do. We know we can hope that maybe Bellerin may invert, but he probably won't. Maybe Cedric will invert a little bit. We'll see what happens there. And then we've got the front four. And the front four are all people that are going to be present. Right? They may not give you 9 out of 10. But they're going to get on the ball. They're going to look after the ball. And they're going to be present. Now, their ceiling may not be too high, but their floor is not going to be too low, we hope. Right? So the one player maybe that people are concerned about is Willian. But recently, he has got better. And so his worst performances were pre-Christmas. So I expect him to give a steady performance for 60, 70 minutes and then be replaced. And as we ramp up the speed, I ramp up the pressure on them. So he's been a controlling team. He knows he's going to get presence from Lacazette. He knows from that central presence, Smith Rowe works well with Lacazette. My personal, only thing I'm not sure of is whether Saka plays on the left or the right. I can see the argument for both sides, because by playing on the left, we get a left footer out there. So not putting Cedric into corners where he's going to have to do something miraculous. So by playing a lefty out there like we did with Pepe out there, I think that sort of works. But we know what Saka's looked like on the right. He looked quite good. But Willian spent most of his career, I can hear Tim's voice going through my mind, on the right-hand side, right? So
for God's sake, he doesn't play on the left. That's spot on. You probably, those of you who thought Tim just joined, he didn't. I'm sorry if I freaked you out there.
And but and so it sort of makes sense. I don't particularly love it, but I try not to worry about lineups too much. I like to see it in action, But
it's a mistake.
If I'm the manager after that performance where certain things didn't happen, in particular with Pepe and Aubameyang, and whether it was instruction or not, I wanted them to be higher to test the trauma that could have happened in the Liverpool backline. We didn't stress them. We ended up playing their game. We all know the story. So Saka's, he's been our best player, isn't he, for the season, really, him and Tierney. And he's back. We trust him. He has looked leggy. He's back in. We're going to be expecting a lot from him. It's he better do well tonight. And I think he will, actually. I think he needs his time off. He really has. It's been lucky the injury wasn't too bad. He's been able to train. So normally when you're injured, you lose fitness like Partey did. He was so injured. He was like, he couldn't get fit and just get his match fitness on the pitch. 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes, then finally 90 minutes. The people are judging him, whereas Saka, I think, needed this time off. I think we could see the player that we all got short memories, but that player was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And even the games where he was scoring goals, he was starting to slow down towards the end in Europe. But let's get back to the guy that is really, really top. And he's got a lot to play for because he's on the edge of England squad for the Euros, right? So let's see what happens.
By the way, I'll not be doing a Clive impression. My Clive impression would sound like when he was hitting puberty. Before his voice.
A long time ago.
Elliot, can I just say just really quick that
Please.
I think the only change I would have liked to see in this lineup, if I had the choice to just take somebody out, is probably Pepe on the left. If we go back to that Southampton game where I thought we played really well, we beat them 3-1 and we played them off the park. They were a pressing side, but we still were able to get past their initial press, playing behind and play good through balls through the center as well. I think Pepe, Lacazette, and Saka would have been a really good, combination today with Emile Smith-Rowe in behind. But again, like Clive said, he may have lost a little bit of trust, and that's unfortunate because Willian, I don't even know.
Well,
I don't know.
Arteta's he's got his cojones out, isn't he? Right? He does these things. He absolutely doesn't care. He goes by what he sees. He selects by what he sees in training. He's got his criteria, and you either hit it or you don't. And he does not care. Now, I totally agree with you, Jess, about Pepe on the left. I keep thinking about a Southampton game. I keep thinking about Xhaka in behind him, fitting that ball into him early. He's got a little bit less to think about. He can take people inside and out. He can wall pass and get back really quickly. I think he's more aggressive on that left-hand side, strangely enough. On the right-hand side, I think he drops in and wants to connect and come laterally. So I'm a bit disappointed not to see it because I like him. And every time I like him and try to convince people that he's brilliant, he does a Liverpool or a City. It's like, oh, God, we're back to square one again. And confidence goes in him. And some of that's him and some of that's us, how we treated him, right? So, and that's, but he's not the only player we've done that to, right? So,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Jess. I mean, Willian is the ball security choice, picked specifically to play against Slavia's press. Can you talk me down off the ledge here? I don't know why we have accepted the suggestion that Willian is a ball security player. Like, I don't know what game it was, Clive. Maybe you'll remember. Jess, maybe you will. Tim would remember. That's his thing. He is a living computer. There was a game we brought Willian on. We were leading it. Might have even been the Leeds game, and he just kept giving it away. And he was like 53% passing on the game, whatever. But like, can you talk to me about this idea that has developed that Willian is a possession-oriented, keep the ball safe kind of player on that side? Because that just doesn't align with what I feel like I've seen or with the player he's been in his career. But we've kind of magicked that into being his role. So how do you react to that description of his role?
Yeah, well, I think that's what we assume is the reason why Arteta keeps picking him, is because of this ball security or something, in contrast to Pepe, who we've convinced ourselves can't keep the ball. You know, he's sloppier because of the way he looks on the ball. He doesn't look as secure, but maybe the numbers are a lot closer. I personally, my hypothesis or thought process on this is Willian is really good in practice. That's the only thing I can think of, is when they're practicing these things and they're doing it on the training pitch, he looks really good and it's not translating to the pitch. That's the only thing I can really think of that would make it make sense why he gets chosen over Pepe, because maybe he practices better. But the whole Willian's ball security versus Pepe's ball security, all this kind of stuff is just something that we've kind of just fabricated. We don't really know why Arteta is playing, Willian. We really don't. He's never come out and say, you know what, this is why I play him. We don't really know why. It's a mystery, but maybe it just comes with, it may just be an experience thing. Maybe Arteta just says his experience will kick in. I'm going to pick the more experienced player because that's what he's leaned into in the past, Maybe it's just that. But ball security, I don't really buy that because, he hasn't been that secure on the ball. He's not a possession type of, he's a kick it past him and run, hit the corner and hit it across type of player. So I don't really even know where that came from, to be honest. Yeah,
well, we'll see. Look, I want to press pause on the seriousness and just laugh for 1 second. And I want to say thanks, True Gunner, for being here, and thanks to everyone who's been here. So I would like you to gently press the like and subscribe button. I do not want you to smash it. I think that there's a whole generation of YouTubers who are being reckless with your electronics and telling you to smash buttons. And as a dad of 2 young children, I can tell you, you children are smashing too many things. Do not smash the like button. Find it. Show it the respect it deserves. It only needs to be gently pressed. These are very sophisticated pieces of equipment. So please gently tap the like, tap the subscribe, tap the bell. Jess, you have a comment on that or no? No, you're good. Okay.
I don't even know why I started saying smash the likes.
Everybody
I really
says it.
don't
They
know.
all say
I think
smash
I just
the like button.
and
Why
the
you gotta
first
smash
time
it?
you said it, I was like, why do I say that? I just adopted it because I heard other people saying it. So just gently tap the likes.
You know what it makes me think of is the Simpsons episode where Homer gets really, really big and then he's trying to call, I think 911 is like, it seems like you may be a very large person. If so, mash the keypad with your hand. He just starts mashing at it, which now that I think about it, probably not a particularly sensitive or considerate episode. Simpsons had issues with that. That's another story altogether. Clive, it sounded like you want to jump in there before we get to the silliness that is about to ensue.
I'm still thinking about football. You know me. I think.
Can I ask you to push pause on the thing so we can just do the funny thing real quick?
I got to say it.
You got to say it. You got to say it.
Mm-hmm. Well, if Odegaard was playing, obviously Willian wouldn't play, right? So, and so if you want a creative midfielder per se in wide areas, and one is missing, next man up is Willian. It's as simple as that. He may not be the next best player in our minds, but he's next man up in that role. Martinelli isn't a duplicate for Smith Rowe or Odegaard. Neither is Aubameyang. We've seen what happened with Aubameyang on the left, so he's turned away from it, which we all want him to do. So he's just the next man up. Now, whether I want him to be the next man up next season is a discussion for our famed squad building podcast, Elliot, which is in my mind most of the days of the week. But yeah, he's just next man up, and that's it. And this is a game plan he wants for today, and it better work. That's all I can say. It better work.
Yeah. Well, okay. Couple things, by the way. People asking about live watch-alongs. I think we're going to try that next week just to see how it goes. I'm going to probably spice up the studio effects here, and we're going to go with that. That may get intense, depending. Maybe there'll be no meat left on this bone, and then we won't have to worry about it. But let's do this real quick. Too late. Laptop's gone. Thanks, YouTube. Yeah. See. I just try to help the people. I am constantly here to try to help the people. Let's have a little silliness, though. Clive, I want to get your thoughts on this because I haven't been able to talk to you about it specifically. This is a work of genius. This is the ArsenalVision post-match podcast bingo card created by N5 Librarian. This, if you read this card in order, you have just done an ArsenalVision podcast. Just record yourself reading these words, and you can then say at the end, we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10, opponent nil, and you've done a podcast. Jess, do you have a favorite on this card?
Two things can be true. That's my favorite one because you say it all the time.
Because they
Let me tell you, with your pen in your hand, I know your pen is in your hand where you say, look, two things can be true, right? And then you say your little two things can be true. That's my favorite one.
I say my little two things can be true. That was so dismissive. I love it. You say your little two things can be true. Clive, there's some good Cliveisms on here, man. I'm pretty sure washing machine's on here. I want everybody to play this drinking game with us. When you hear this stuff, you should be drinking. Washing machine there. It is fourth row, fourth column, top row.
Superiorities. I definitely say that a lot.
Superiorities. Yeah. I love it. I hit us with
Two
an
lips. I definitely say that. Two lips is me.
I hit us with an over my ski tips on the Premier League pod for patrons yesterday, which was good. Real quick, that's a me. Let me just tell you something real quick. Is the most classic intro to a 7-minute rant you have ever heard in your life. So yeah, I mean, I see another Cliveism I like, telling us about ourselves.
Oh yeah,
yes, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
5 channels is all of us really, but I tend to talk about that a fair bit.
I see a 3-star hotels. How do you feel about our 3-star hotels at Center Back tonight, Clive? What do you think about our 3-star hotel?
We're still throwing out contracts to them. This is Arsenal Football Club.
Ceiling and floor is probably your most popular one, Clive.
Yeah, ceiling and floor.
Ceiling and floor is very popular. I've used it and tried to adopt it in my own things. It's not as good when I say it, but that's popular.
It's something of the floor is the key thing, isn't it? We're all sitting here getting ready for a game. And what are we really worried about? We're worried about where the performance could be on the negative side. And when you got a good side, you're confident about your worst level. And that sounds crazy, but you sort of know where your floor is. The ceiling is the fun. We never know where the ceiling is. We can get a fantastic performance like the second half at West Ham. That's the exciting thing. What we don't want is the first 30 minutes at West Ham. We don't want that. That's not good. You can play bad, but you can't play that bad. And that's where we are at the moment. And I sometimes think, is it just us and how we analyze football at the moment and how we feel? On our famed podcast the other day, I think Paul said, or you said, Elliot, while you were fighting each other, you said,
I won that fight, by the way. People keep
that
nobody mentions that.
Was pure entertainment. I listened to it just yesterday, and I was like, "This is amazing."
Thank you, Jess. You're the one.
So, but one thing that really stuck in me is that does every game have to be a referendum? And I think that's a change in fandom and how we watch football, and we really want to stay with it. But we get shaken off our path, right? And we are at the moment. And we're talking about, we know we've got a 3 to 5 year project manager, whether you like it or not, that's what we've got. But right now, no one's thinking about projects, are they? Half hour to go, wherever it is, we're thinking, I'm had enough of this. We need to win, and that's how football is, right? So every game is a referendum, and it's how we deal with that. And you can't assume that the guy sitting next to you that loves the club the same as you, or lady, excuse me, Jess, sitting next to you that loves the club the same as you, thinks about things at the same pace. And I think it's the pace of change, the pace of development, that is the thing that we all have differences about, right? So as you can tell from me, I never had pace to lose, so I can take it. And so other people like Elliot Want to move a little bit quicker. That's life. That's fine.
Yeah, fair enough. Jess?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Clive is saying. And like, it's like when I would listen to the podcast, I would think Clive can see things that I just literally cannot see. I can't see them. I actually didn't see much until after Boxing Day. But Clive had already been talking about things that he had been seeing from the way that we're playing, the patterns, and how we're just a little bit far away from where we want to be. So I think for fans, it's just some people can see it in gameplay before, or some people can only see it in results. And that's what we're seeing, is that the people that can only see it in results are worried, very, very worried, and vocally worried about it as well. So I get that. We're all fans. There's no one way to be a fan. You don't have to be balanced. Fandom is not about being, balanced and thought-provoking and overthinking everything. Fandom is just loving your team and being on the highs and lows and being on the roller coaster with it. So I don't blame anybody who cannot see it because of the results. They're just not there, but we just have to accept that we're all in different places right now. And hopefully we win this game so we don't see the roller coaster crash and burn, because I do believe what Clive is saying, it feels so heavy right now. And I'm not really sure why, but it just feels really heavy. Like today is a really, really big deal.
Yeah, well, so let's get into that. I mean, Clive, every next game is the biggest game of the season, right? Like every game, I see a lot of people saying this is the season, this is Arteta's season. Guess what? Next Thursday will be 2. And assuming there's more Europa League, that will be 2. Have you settled into the idea that the Premier League is done and dusted for Europa? Done and dusted for qualifying. I mean, I know Tim has been very clear that he doesn't believe in prioritizing, that you play the game in front of you as though it's the most important. But where do you stand on thinking that he can now really fully think about the Europa League as his season? Given, I mean, look, coming off the North London derby, I think we thought there was a lot left for us to do in the league potentially. The West Ham draw and the Liverpool loss probably ended that, in my view. So where do you come down on that? Jess, you can take that if you need to. You're an important lady. But yeah, Clive, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I obviously, you know me, I think we're going to win every game. So I just lose my brains and think we're going to win every game. But the drop points have sort of hurt that a little bit. And how I feel about tonight is telling me what I really care about. I care about is competition. And that's it. This, to me, is a chance to sort of take a year off the project, right, at minimum. And so I really do care about this. I wouldn't normally say that we should prioritize, but I think we just got a squad and we just got to use it. And we've got to rotate certain people. And we've made some changes tonight, and we're going to make some changes on Sunday. That's just the way it is. If we win tonight, win Sunday, and a few results go our way, we might have a different conversation next week, Elliot. Do you know what I mean? I don't think
your optimism is undefeated, my friend. I love you.
Well, I just go. I don't feel good. I'm not saying we're going to win. I'm not saying it. Don't worry, people. It's going to be okay. I'm not saying that. I feel exactly the same as everybody else. I feel edgy. I've been rattled. The whole conversations around this game have really sort of concerned me. I don't think the direction changes. I feel the job at Arsenal is clear. It's not person dependent, shall we say? Do you know what I mean? It's plan dependent. There is nothing. You can't do anything else. It's just a new guy comes in, fine, get a new guy. The job is clear. We need to rebuild the squad. So there's nothing else to do. It's not like Chelsea, you sort of like, okay, I've come into the squad. Basically, I've got all these players, and I'm going to change formations, and I'm going to motivate the German speakers, and off you go. Right? So with Arsenal, one thing to do, rip half the dressing room out and get a new lot in. That is the job that's coming. Everything's going to stop us is the market, the sales, the prices. That's it. There's only one thing to do. And the only question we said earlier this week is, do we trust these guys to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what's good about the table though, Clive?
What's that, mate?
The way it lays out, when I put comments on the screen, you can't see us because we're all the way at the bottom of the screen. So it all works out great. Clive, I mean, I look at this. It is, when you look at it, 42 points through 30 games, and I realize like this is really a tale of two seasons, sort of, for the most part, pre-Boxing Day. But this is going to take some some reckoning. And, Paul and I did get into a bit of an argument. I actually agree with him on the idea that you can't make decisions about managers just on the strength of your table finish. That's silly. Look at Graham Potter. Graham Potter on XG and XA. I mean, he's like one of the better teams in the league. It hasn't worked out for him, but you'd be crazy to give up on that guy right now with the way he's doing. And I think post-Boxing Day, Arteta's done things that certainly make me, as you know, you do pods with me every freaking day, Clive. I've come around a bit, but like, do you worry that the sheer challenge of the reality of where we may finish in the table could be a narrative that, despite any other improvements or any of the process or journey that we're going on, may have so much weight to it that it overwhelms people's ability to see any other story or any narrative developing around the club?
I think we did a Premier League pod. Was it yesterday? Yesterday.
Clive, you're getting a Duvel from Lauren Leamy, by the way.
Oh, yes. Someone who knows me well. 8.3%. Thank you very much.
That's the alcoholic content he's talking about, that 8.3%. Yeah.
On the Liverpool pod, on the Premier League pod, we spoke about Liverpool, and then you sort of deal with the FSG partners in the investment. And we spoke about Liverpool creating a new network of people to bring around the club, specialist advisors, bringing things to the party. So what do? We have a 41-year-old chief executive and a 40-year-old technical director in football and a 39-year-old manager. And what do? We give all the power to a 39-year-old in his first job. We don't really sell the players we should do. We don't give him much money. We ask him to get some free transfers. We then give him some money late. He buys a player who gets injured. We make some dumb decisions. But what we do is we load pressure onto the key people rather than take pressure away. Right? So that alone is stupidity. So when people say, Clive, I've had some great discussions on Discord today, some really, really good discussions. And
those people are sharp.
And they say to me, you're not hard enough on the manager. And I say, look, it's just the way I am. I just don't look at individuals. I look at your ways of working. And you look at Arsenal and our ways of working, no one can tell me that they're good. Do you know what I mean? No one can tell me that the way we supporting these guys is optimal. And I look around and I don't see the same ways of working pressure on a young guy like we have done to this guy. We put too much trust in him. And so because of that, I tend to be a little bit easier. And I look at the club as a whole. And I want the club to operate better. And the reason why people at Arteta keep their job is not so much results orientated. It's how they work, how they operate, how they're perceived in the club. And the things that will change things for him is if people in the club feel he's not working in the same way. His decision process isn't good. He hasn't got respect for people. And one more thing I've got to say is another Discord guy. And I can't help but be serious. Sorry, Jesse, just the way I am. Remember, I
can be the clown. Don't worry, I got that covered. You just do what you do, man.
We remember when Emery was in, and we were losing confidence. You and Tim and Paul way before I did, right? So, and I said, look, guys, don't relax. Emery's the cleaner. He's the next guy in. He's the cleaner. He won't be here for more than a couple of years. I actually want to go back on that a little bit. Because I think Emery was the next guy and his job was to get the Champions League and he didn't. The moment he lost the faith in the club to say you can get us in the top four, you couldn't, the players stepped away from him and it was obvious what to do next. I actually think Arteta is the cleaner now. He's the one that said, look, we need to change this club and we are giving you the key. I don't care what happens, you need to rip this club apart. You need to change the culture, bring in standards, and clean the dressing room. And what they're doing, unlike Emery, when he wanted certain players and wanted certain players out, they didn't do it. They didn't support him. Arteta's getting supported. I think the club recognised their mistake and they're supporting him. They could be over-supported. They've gone too far the other way. So Arteta is the cleaner, really. It's definitely the cleaning phase of the project. He needs to clean the club up. He needs to create a new culture, new standards, while he's coaching team at the same time and being manager and doing the transfer strategy and doing all the things that we know and love that keep us awake at night. So that's the problem for me. And that's a way of working issue, right? So this is why I don't focus on the guy. because the guy will sort himself out regardless. 4 bad results at the wrong time, things take care of themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. I think we should start to pivot a little bit to what we're predicting to happen in this game because it's getting close to kickoff. And we could do another 2-hour live stream just on Arteta in, Arteta out. I don't, Jess, I don't love it when we start to get to the point where every result is a referendum on the manager. And you may be surprised to hear Paul doesn't love it either. He was quite animated in expressing that he does not love it, telling me to get an effing grip about it on the last podcast, which, to be fair, I could probably stand to get a grip, but with these weak hands, who could grip anything? So, Jess, as far as tonight, without asking you to be an expert on Slavia Prague specifically, what do you think, based on how he's lined us up, based on what you know of Arteta? It is the home levels would be bad. Do you have a sense of what we'll see tonight? How about this in terms of what we'll see tonight? Give me your area of most optimism of something you think that might work for us, and your area of biggest concern in terms of a thing that you think could leave us vulnerable or struggling.
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert on Slavia Prague at all, but I did do a show with the Euro expert, so he gave me some, good information about Slavia Prague, I rewatched their game against Leicester, which they deserve to go through. We have to remember that they beat Leicester, they knocked them out, and they also knocked out Rangers. So this is not going to be as straightforward as I think we think it is, just because we don't know the name of this team. They haven't given up that many goals. So they're hard to break down. They're not going to sit in a low block. It's going to be more of a mid block, and they're going to press us off the pitch. And they've been likened to Leeds. So once you beat that first press, you're in, and their starting center backs are not available. So I would see that as a weakness. I think playing quick 1-2 passes is going to be what we need to do to move those pieces around, because they're pretty compact. And then hitting somebody, probably Saka, because he's pretty much our only runner up front, into space on the right-hand side is probably where we're going to get a little bit of joy. I feel like their best player is going to be playing on our left side. So they're going to be on Cedric and Willian side. His name is Sima. He's their best and brightest player. And if we can keep him quiet, I think we'll be able to keep them quiet. But don't get it twisted. This team is confident. They haven't lost a game all season in their league. And they're on like a 60-something game unbeaten streak or something insane like that. So they will be confident. They'll shoot from outside. And our biggest weakness is going to be maybe coming in too confident, maybe not being not concentrating, and making silly mistakes. We will have a lot of the ball, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to be walking into their penalty box. So quick 1-2 passes and then hitting Saka into space. Not sure about what we're going to do on that left-hand side, because I anticipated seeing a runner on the left-hand side. So we'll see how it goes. But I think we have enough to beat them, but it's not going to be as straightforward as we think. There you go.
Yeah, I would take that. Look, the problem with this team is that it's like a box of chocolates, as we learned from Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get. I think the thing that still worries me looking at this lineup is I trust us to be the better team. I think we're playing better now. Xhaka and Partey is such an important thing. You cannot overestimate how much better that makes us. Obviously, Tierney's loss is a big one, but I think from a possession standpoint and staying dominant in the game, I think Cedric and Bellerin can do the job. What happens when we get into the final third? What happens when we have the ball there? Do we start that horseshoe passing around the penalty box? Are we lumping crosses in for Lacazette to not be able to get the better of? What is our plan for breaking them down once we're able to get beyond them? And if they do press, do we have the pace in the team to take advantage of that? Because you get by a press, what do you want to do? You want to outrun that last line, right, Clive? I mean, that's the thing that I look at is if he's got to pick Lacazette over Aubameyang, and I personally wish he wouldn't, but if he's got to do that, I wish he would have picked Pepe over Willian. I think you need those runners. I mean, look at how Lacazette played with Saka against West Ham, and it wasn't Saka's best game, but those times he sent him in right behind the defense. Give him the runners to feed into. And I think Willian has shown an unwillingness to do that at times, that he's for whatever reason started walking when he hits the final third. I know that's been a criticism for you. So is that really the issue? Do you think tonight the biggest question is, can these players that have been picked step up to the occasion and not just hold on to the ball, but create the kind of threat and product? Because the Bayern Munich game, what a game that was.
Yeah.
But you look at Bayern with 31 shots, and I said this earlier. If they have Lewandowski and Gnabry, they probably score 4 or 5 goals. There's no replacing talent when it comes to scoring goals. So is that the biggest concern for you, how we handle it when we get into the final third?
Yeah, the bigger concern is that Pepe hasn't made it a slam dunk, because it should be, right? And he hasn't done it for whatever reason. And you know, he's a favourite of mine, so I'm a bit gutted about that. I think, you know, sometimes at the weekend we saw a couple of centre backs that we thought we should have got at. But what we didn't do is we didn't really own our build up. We didn't really build up for the third. So with Xhaka back in there, we can build up again. And it's going to be a game of secondary movements, right? So it's all going to be wall passes around the corner stuff, and that's all we can do. And I think sometimes as a centre back, if you're an occasional centre back, that's a harder thing to sort of track. When someone's running at you from distance, we as fans think, let's get in behind them. They're leaving the space, let's get in behind them. But actually, you can see that developing, you can drop off. But when you got people moving around you and playing wall passes and then getting secondary movements, I think that's the thing that we're going to get in tonight. I really feel, and I know it's not going to happen, and you know, probably never going to happen, but I really feel that Martinelli is a great player for this type of game, where it's a high energy game. One of the things that worry me about Slavia is their running power, basically. They beat Leicester, who's one of our hardest running teams, and I watched that game, and they ran them off the park.
Yeah.
They ran them off the park. And we are not, we're okay. We're not great runners, are we? We're not great athletes. We haven't really picked them tonight. So we better control the football. We better move them around and control the football. I'm a bit nervous, but this is the first game of 2. It's the first half of 2, 5 subs. Whatever happens, it's not over. Klopp made one mistake at the last night by playing Navigator, ripped him off on 40 minutes. You can make changes. It's not the end of the world. We can go again as a game developing. And let's see what happens, mate. I'm nervous earlier. I'm nervous for sure.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I mean, it feels like a big occasion. Look, it's funny, right? Because if you said to me, would you rather go out to Slavia Prague or lose to United in a European final? Like, it's a close run thing. But I think, and this is the kind of stuff you hate to say, but I think for Arteta, he has to get us to the final. You look at how it's set up. He has to get us to the final. Let me put one more thing on the screen, actually, that's just real interesting before we get out of here, and we'll start to wrap up. But I think you guys will find this interesting. This is, here we go. You know, just doing a couple things at once. No problem. We're going to just throw up the 538 odds for the Europa League real quick. And here they are. And what you'll see is United are favored at 87%, then Ajax 82%, Arsenal 81%. Pardon me, that's the SPI, not the percent. That wouldn't make any sense. But here we go. To win the final, 35% to United, 17% to Ajax, and 17% to Arsenal, and 17% to Villarreal. So United pretty heavily favored. But if you look at Slavia Prague there with 3%, it tells you just how favored we are over them. When you look at this, Jess, obviously if we face Villarreal in the next round, well, according to the 538 and the SPI, that's a coin toss. I would probably, look, I like my feet. I think they're nice feet. I think if I showed you my feet, you'd say, yeah, those are perfectly nice feet. I would cut off one of my feet before I want to see us lose to Unai Emery in the Europa League. So what do you think when you look at these odds? What does Arteta have to do for his Europa League campaign to be acceptable? And is losing to Unai Emery like the single scariest, worst possible outcome?
I'm going to be honest with you, Elliot. I don't have, he needs to be somewhere specific to do anything for me, because I just think it's so much bigger than just that. League position is not going to be great. If he doesn't get to the final, what's going to happen? He's still going to be here. He's literally still going to be here. So I think I talk about optics a lot, and I think it would look better for fans that are looking for results, actual tangible results, for us to be above 10th somewhere and make it to the final, but still you lose to, Manchester United in the final. That's going to bring up, a lot of bad feelings as well. So I don't know if we're ever going to be, if we do anything we do in this season, other than winning the Europa League, will change the the thought process of certain people in this fan base.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing. Winning the Europa League, even getting to the final and not winning it. Look what happened last time when that Unai Emery did the same thing. Did that do anything for him the next season? Not really. People still were very apprehensive about what he could do. So I just kind of want to see us get back to where we were before the West Ham game, or really before the Liverpool game, playing nice football, patterns of play, scoring goals, looking like we're going in the right direction. And if we could try to creep up the table, maybe to 8th place, and get as far as we can in this competition and not lose to anybody that we shouldn't be losing to, meaning Slavia Prague, maybe Unai Emery, and get to that final, I would be happy with that. But he's going to be here next season, regardless to what he does in these next, 2 months. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay, score real quick. Jess, tonight.
2-1 Arsenal.
Clive.
2-0.
Okay, I'll say 4-1 to the Arsenal tonight. Tie dead. Slavia dead. Slavia in the mud.
You said that before, and it wasn't that.
Friendship with Slavia over. Now Arsenal is my friend. I just want to say thank you, everybody. This is absolutely awesome. I love you. We love you. Thank you for being here. You should definitely be following Jess and watching her and listening to her podcast. She knows Arsenal. Jess is on Twitter at It's Jessinho. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Big finish from Jess. Bye. Goodbye,
Bye,
Jesse.
guys.
Bye.
Thank
Great
you.
to see you. Thank you. All right. Clive, everyone knows where to find you on Twitter at ClivePAFC. But also we're going to be doing instant reaction pod at full time for patrons, and hopefully people will join us for that. Any final words to the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, I actually found out how to see the comments finally, so I can see them. Yeah. I can see a few of them. So we've got some good people watching and listening, and very knowledgeable. And it's hanging with people. We got a tough night ahead, but let's hope it's good, right? And we all feel the same, right? We're nervous, we're edgy, but in the end, we're all Arsenal fans, right? So hang in there, and I'll see you on the Twitters.
See you on the Twitters. Hey, thanks, Clive. Chat with you after the match.
Yeah, you will. All right, mate. Take care.
Up the Arsenal. Bye. Okay, my name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. I just want to say thanks to everybody. We absolutely do love you, as it says. If you want to sign up for Patreon, you can do that, and we'd love to have you. And we got lots of extra content there. If you don't want to do it, by the way, or can't do it, we're just... Wait, no, there we go. Sorry. Almost made it through. We're just thrilled to have you here. I hope you enjoy the game. I hope it's a good game. And we'll have instant reaction afterwards, and then a pod tomorrow, full pod tomorrow. We might do a watch along for the game next Thursday. So that's the next big thing we'll work on. Thanks, everybody. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Slavia Prague.